I pressed myself against the wall outside my father's study, my heart pounding as I listened to their conversation. Dr. Ahmad, we're at our wits' end, my mother's voice trembled with rehearsed concern. Maya has become unstable, refusing to eat, fighting against our wishes. She needs professional intervention. My name is Maya Saidade, and at 23, I was about to be committed to a mental hospital because I refused to marry my father's business partner's son, a man twice my age with 2 failed marriages. She's talking about pursuing art, living independently, my father added with disgust. This isn't how we raised her. The marriage has been arranged since she was 16. She knows her duty. I clutched my phone tighter, the recording app capturing every word. 7 years of medical school, a completed residency, and still, to them I was just a bargaining chip in their social circles. And you say her behavior has become erratic? Dr. Ahmad asked, his pen scratching against paper. Completely, my mother responded. She's been sneaking out, making secret phone calls. Yesterday, I found her researching apartments online. She's clearly having a breakdown. I almost laughed at the irony. My erratic behavior was actually careful planning, preparations I'd been making ever since I discovered their plans to marry me off to Khalid Rahman, a 46-year-old man known for his controlling nature and volatile temper. We can admit her for observation, Dr. Ahmad said. A few weeks of therapy might help her understand the importance of family obligations. A few weeks, that's all they needed to break me, to force me into a marriage that would destroy everything I'd worked for. But they'd underestimated me. They still saw me as the obedient daughter who'd followed their every command, who'd pursued medicine because they demanded it, who'd never questioned their authority. When can we bring her in? My father asked. I have an opening tomorrow morning. Bring her to my private clinic. We'll handle everything discreetly. I slipped away from the door, moving silently up the stairs to my room. My travel bag was already packed, hidden beneath my bed, passport, cash I'd been saving from my hospital stipend, and essential documents I'd secretly gathered over the past months. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, my best friend since medical school. Everything's ready, just say when. I typed back quickly. Tonight. They're planning to commit me tomorrow morning. Sarah had been my lifeline through all of this, helping me plan my escape while my parents thought I was working extra hospital shifts. They never questioned why I stayed late at the hospital. After all, a dedicated doctor was more attractive to potential in-laws. I heard footsteps approaching my room, and quickly sat at my desk, pretending to review patient files. My mother entered without knocking, her face a mask of concern. Maya, dear, we're worried about you, she began, perching on my bed. Your father and I have been talking to Dr. Ahmad about getting you some help. I kept my voice steady, playing the role they expected. Help with what, Mama? This resistance to the marriage, these wild ideas about independence, it's not healthy, Beta. A few weeks of rest and therapy will help you think clearly. I turned to face her, studying the woman who'd once been my role model. And if I refuse? Her eyes hardened slightly. It's already arranged. We're taking you to the clinic tomorrow morning. Pack a small bag. Little did she know, my real bag was already packed, and it wasn't for the clinic. After she left, I waited until the house grew quiet. My parents always retired early, a habit I'd counted on for my plan. At exactly 11:30 p.m., Sarah's car pulled up silently outside our gated community. I changed into the clothes I'd hidden in my medical bag, dark and practical, instead of the traditional clothes my parents insisted I wear at home. The notebook I left on my desk contained a single message: I won't let you destroy my life to preserve your reputation. As I crept down the stairs, I heard my father's snoring from the master bedroom. The security system, installed to keep me in as much as to keep others out, had one weakness: my father never changed the code for my birthday. I punched in the numbers and slipped out through the side door, my heart threatening to burst from my chest. Sarah was waiting in her car, engine running quietly. Did anyone see you? She whispered as I slid into the passenger seat. I shook my head, clutching my bag. They think I'm sleeping. They won't check until morning when they're supposed to take me to the clinic. Sarah pulled away smoothly, driving through the quiet suburban streets. Your flight's in 3 hours. You'll be in London before they even realize you're gone. And the job? I asked, thinking of the hospital position I'd secretly interviewed for via video calls. They emailed the contract this morning. You start next month in the pediatric unit. I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for years. My fellowship in pediatric surgery, the specialty I'd chosen despite my parents' insistence on cardiology, had opened doors they never knew about. Maya, Sarah said softly, as we drove toward the airport. Are you sure about this? Once you do this, there's no going back. I thought about the life they had planned for me, married to a man who saw me as property, my medical career reduced to a status symbol, my independence stripped away entirely. I'm sure, I replied, touching the passport in my bag. They planned to lock me up in a mental hospital to force me into marriage. They lost the right to be part of my life the moment they made that decision. The night sky stretched out ahead of us, filled with stars and possibilities. My parents thought they were protecting me, preserving their cultural values. Instead, they'd pushed me to break free entirely. Sarah pulled up to the international terminal. I'll keep an eye on things here, let you know what happens. I hugged her tightly, fighting back tears. Thank you for everything. As I walked into the airport, my medical bag over my shoulder and my future ahead of me, I thought about the recording on my phone, evidence of their plot to have me committed. I'd sent copies to my lawyer and trusted friends, insurance against any attempts to force my return. My parents had raised me to be smart, capable, and dedicated. They just never expected me to use those qualities to escape their control. The London morning was crisp and foggy as I stepped out of my small flat in Notting Hill. 3 months had passed since my escape, and every day felt like a breath of fresh air. My new job at St. Mary's Hospital was everything I'd dreamed of, challenging, rewarding, and most importantly mine. My phone buzzed with another message from my cousin Zara back home. They're still telling everyone you had a mental breakdown, and you're in a private facility getting treatment, but people are starting to ask questions. I smiled grimly. Of course they'd rather pretend their daughter was mentally ill than admit she'd escaped their control. My parents' perfect facade was cracking though. It's hard to maintain the story of a daughter in treatment when that daughter is posting surgical success stories on medical forums under her own name. Dr. Syed, a nurse called out as I entered the pediatric ward. Your patient from yesterday, Tommy, his fever's broken. These small victories were what I lived for now. Not the social status my parents craved, not the approval of community aunties, but the real difference I could make in children's lives. Sarah's daily updates kept me informed of the chaos I'd left behind. My parents had discovered my absence around 7 a.m., just as they were preparing to take me to Dr. Ahmed's clinic. The security footage they checked showed nothing. I'd looped it the week before, another skill they didn't know I had. Your mother went to the police, Sarah texted during my lunch break. But your lawyer showed them the recording of their plans to forcibly commit you. They backed off immediately. False imprisonment is still a crime, even for parents. I was reviewing patient charts when my office phone rang. The hospital administrator's voice was gentle but firm. Dr. Syed, there's a couple in the lobby claiming to be your parents. Hospital security has been notified. My hands shook slightly as I put down the phone. I'd known this day would come. They'd eventually track me down through medical registries. That's why I'd prepared for it. I walked to the lobby, my white coat like armor around my shoulders. They stood there, looking somehow smaller than I remembered. My mother's eyes were red from crying, my father's face lined with what might have been worry or anger. Beta, my mother started, stepping forward. Come home, whatever confusion you're experiencing. Dr. Syed, I corrected her firmly. Here, I'm Dr. Syed, and I'm not confused. Security guards stood discreetly nearby, alerted by my lawyer's previous warnings about potential harassment. This childish rebellion has gone on long enough, my father said, his voice carrying that familiar tone of authority that used to make me shrink. You're coming home to fulfill your responsibilities. I pulled out my phone, playing the recording I'd made that night. Their voices filled the quiet lobby. She needs to be institutionalized until she agrees to marry. They paled as their own words echoed back at them. I have copies of this everywhere, I said calmly. If anything happens to me, if I suddenly agrees to return, they'll be released to every family member, every community leader, every medical board. You would blackmail your own parents? My mother gasped. You would institutionalize your own daughter for refusing forced marriage, I countered. I'm not the one who broke our family's trust. My father's face hardened. If this is your choice, you are no longer our daughter. No, I replied, standing straighter. You lost the right to call me daughter when you planned to imprison me for wanting to live my own life. A nurse appeared at my elbow. Dr. Syed, Your patient in room 304 needs you. I turned to my parents one last time. I have surgery scheduled, patients who need me. A life I've built without your permission or approval. Don't come here again. As I walked away, my mother called out, Maya, please. I didn't look back. The scared daughter they could control was gone, replaced by the doctor and woman I'd always wanted to be. Later that night, as I sat in my flat reviewing cases, Sarah called. Your parents are telling everyone you've lost your mind and joined a cult. I laughed, surprisingly free of bitterness. Let them. The truth has a way of coming out. The hospital board received a complaint about your mental stability, she added. But apparently your department head called it a transparent attempt at harassment, and dismissed it immediately. I thought about Tommy, my young patient, whose life I'd helped save yesterday, about the residents I was training, the research I was conducting, the career I was building. No cage, no matter how gilded, was worth giving this up. You know what's funny? I told Sarah. They raised me to be strong, independent, and dedicated to helping others. They just never expected me to apply those qualities to my own life. As I looked out over the London skyline, I felt at peace. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is save yourself. 1 year after my escape, I stood at the podium of the International Pediatric Surgery Conference in Geneva, presenting my groundbreaking research on minimally invasive techniques for newborns. The irony wasn't lost on me. My parents had always pushed me toward prestigious medical achievements, but now that I'd achieved them on my own terms, they couldn't share in the triumph. As I finished my presentation to enthusiastic applause, I spotted a familiar face in the audience. Dr. Ahmad, the very doctor who'd agreed to commit me, sat there looking uncomfortable. Our eyes met briefly before he looked away. During the reception, he approached me cautiously. Dr. Syed, your research is remarkable. Thank you, I replied coolly. Quite different from diagnosing convenient mental illnesses for controlling parents, isn't it? He flushed, adjusting his tie nervously. About that, I've actually stopped taking those kinds of requests. Your case made me realize what I was enabling. I nodded, accepting his unspoken apology. Change happens one person at a time. Back in London, my life had fallen into a rhythm I loved. My flat felt like home, decorated with the art I'd always wanted to create, but was never allowed. My walls featured photographs from my travels, Paris, Rome, Barcelona, all places I'd visited on my own terms. Sarah kept me updated on the aftermath back home. The community had slowly begun to question my parents' version of events, especially after my research was published in leading medical journals. It's hard to maintain the story of a mentally unstable daughter when she's being celebrated in her field. Your cousin Zara is getting married next month, Sarah told me, during our weekly video call. But she's refusing the man her parents chose. She said you showed her it was possible to choose her own path. I smiled, thinking of the quiet revolution my actions had sparked. 3 other girls from our community had reached out to me through Sarah, seeking advice on escaping arranged marriages. I'd helped them all, setting up a discreet network of support. Then came the day that changed everything again. A critical case arrived at my hospital, a 6-month-old baby with a complex heart condition. When I saw the parents' names on the chart, my heart stopped. It was my cousin Adil's son. They flew him in from Dubai, my colleague explained. They specifically requested you. Apparently you're the only one they trust to perform this surgery. The irony was almost poetic. My family, who'd tried to force me into cardiology instead of pediatric surgery, now needed both skills to save one of their own. I performed the 8-hour surgery with steady hands, every decision clear and precise. When I walked out to the waiting area, Adil and his wife rushed to me. Maya, Adil choked out, thank you for saving our son. Word spread quickly through the family network. My uncle, who'd supported my parents' decision to commit me, now had to reconcile that with the fact that I'd saved his grandson's life. A week later, I received an unexpected email from my mother. Dear Maya, your father won't approve of me writing this, but I've watched you build a life we never imagined possible. When Adil told us how you saved Zen, I finally understood. We were wrong. Our fear of losing control made us lose you instead. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm proud of the woman you've become. Mama, I didn't reply immediately. Some wounds need time to heal properly, something I'd learned both as a doctor and as a daughter. Instead, I focused on my latest project, establishing a foundation to help young medical professionals escape forced marriages and family control. We provided legal support, safe housing, and career guidance. The scared girl who'd packed a travel bag in the middle of the night had become a lifeline for others. During my next lecture at a medical school, a young resident asked me the question I'd been expecting. Dr. Syed, how did you find the courage to choose your own path? I thought about that night, about the fear and determination that had driven me. Sometimes, I answered, the most difficult surgery we perform is cutting away the parts of our lives that are hurting us. But just like in medicine, proper healing can only begin after we make that crucial first incision. My story had become a different kind of arranged marriage, one where I'd chosen to marry my passion for medicine with my desire for freedom. It wasn't the life my parents had planned for me, but it was the life I'd fought to create. And as I looked out at the eager faces of future doctors, I knew that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is write our own story, even when others have already planned the ending. The end.